In case the title didn't make it obvious enough, I have little to no experience in the Metroid series. I've obviously been familiar with the series for quite some time now, I just never really gave the games a shot and I can't tell you why honestly. The only experience I had prior to picking up Metroid Dread was from playing a little bit of Super Metroid, but I didn't even play enough to have an opinion on it. But now, I'm a changed man, and I decided to give a Metroid game a real chance. And to get right to the point, I love this game.
Hey Brandt.
Repulsive? How the hell did you get in my recording studio again?
So, I was thinking, since you clearly don't know what a Metroid is, I thought I might as well step in and help you out.
Okay, I guess? We can start by talking about the development history since it is pretty interesting. Take it away, Repulsive.
This is common knowledge by now, but Metroid Dread has been in production for quite some time now. The concept has existed for a while now, and it was planned to be released on the DS. It first appeared around 2005, from websites claiming a new Metroid game was in development, but some other sources claim it was cancelled later that year. The first time it was publicly announced by Nintendo was in a Nikkei Nintendo magazine that claimed it was planned to release in November 2006. Contrary to the magazine, it never appeared at E3, and after that, news regarding the game was non-existent for a while. In 2007, with the release of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, an Easter egg was discovered claiming that Metroid Project Dread was entering its final stages of completion. The game's director soon denied the project's existence, essentially killing off the speculation. It was killed because Yoshio Sakamoto wasn't satisfied with the current hardware. However, he had confirmed its existence around 2010, plus the possibility of it being picked up again. Yet, it ended up with the same destiny as before. Soon, it had been over 15 years without a new Metroid game, but a studio hired by Nintendo created a remake for Metroid 2. After Metroid's director had seen what the team had done, he knew they were perfect, and that it was time to revive the project a third time. There were many 2D Metroid leaks around June, and it finally became a reality on the Nintendo Switch as it was announced during E3 of this year, which got a lot of people excited.
So yeah, this game had a lot riding on it, since not only is it the newest 2D Metroid game since 2002, but it's a project that's been a mystery for the longest time, so it's time to take a look at Metroid Dread. The plot kicks off with Samus Aran traveling to planet ZDR, with the purpose of investigating a dangerous species of parasites called the X. When Samus arrives on the planet, she's attacked by a Chozo who outmatches her, and she is stripped of all of her abilities from the last game, I presume. Later on, she also discovers a robot by the name of EMMI that attacks her on sight and is a pretty big threat. For a while, advancements in the story are lacking, which I think is fine, since the game leaves you with tons of questions to ask yourself, like why are the EMMI robots attacking me, why did that Chozo attack me, who even was that Chozo? It's nice to have time to think to yourself before being thrown into more of the rising action. I also love the atmosphere of this game. It's very mysterious since you'll be left with so many unanswered questions for a while. And there's also this sense of dread since there are all these foes that are a lot stronger than you are. And on top of that, you're alone on this foreign planet. ZDR is also a beautiful place with many different distinct areas, like the caves of Artaria, the underground forest in Gavaron, the facility that circulates magma throughout the planet in Kataris, the biological research site in Dairon, and the ancient ruins of Phendrana. Those aren't all of them, but I think you get the point. Later on in the game, a Chozo by the name of Quiet Robe, who is a survivor of the Thohat tribe, saves Samus from an EMMI and deactivates it. He also informs us that the guy who attacked Samus upon arrival is Raven Beak, which by the way, I think his design looks really cool. Anyways, Raven Beak was a leader of the Malkin warrior tribe, and they wished to utilize the power of the Metroids for galactic domination, so they were assisted by the Thohat tribe, since they could actually control them. However, one of the soldiers in the tribe was secretly an ex-parasite, so their entire tribe was eradicated except for Raven Beak. He then hacked the EMMI, who were originally controlled by the Galactic Federation, and he commanded them to hunt for and kill Samus, who extract her Metroid DNA for his own use. And then after explaining all this, Quiet Robe is then killed by a robot Chozo soldier. Samus eventually discovers the X-parasites and they infect all life on the planet, but since Samus is immune, she can just absorb them. Once she is finally powerful enough to face Ravenbeak head-on after defeating all the EMMIs, we then get the reveal that Adam was actually Ravenbeak the entire time, and Samus has now fully awakened to becoming a Metroid. When you think about it, Adam being Ravenbeak the entire time does make a lot of sense, since his reason for you losing your abilities was pretty bad, which can just be explained by him trying to hide it. Ravenbeak nearly triumphs, but Samus's armor metamorphosizes into this new Metroid suit, and she's finally able to defeat Ravenbeak in such a badass moment. Samus barely escapes the exploding planet, but she can't pilot the ship without draining its energy due to her unstable transformation. Suddenly, Quiet Robe appears and allows Samus to absorb his X-parasite DNA to stabilize her Metroid DNA, so she reverts back to normal and makes it out safely. Thus, the story comes to a conclusion. Oh yeah, there's also this detail towards the end that Samus actually has some Malkin DNA, therefore she is Ravenbeak's daughter, but it didn't really add much to the story, to be honest. Overall, the story here was pretty good. I've definitely seen better, but it gets the job done thanks to its great atmosphere, cool character designs, and some really badass moments. I think Samus is a great protagonist. She doesn't talk a lot, but manages to be quite expressive with her movement, and is overall just kind of a badass. Beak is a very threatening antagonist, and I thought his boss fight was really fun, even if it took me like an hour. Now let's talk about the gameplay. Being a Metroidvania, of course, the gameplay consists of combat, platforming, and exploration. All of these elements feel great because Samus controls beautifully here. She's also very agile too. The more you progress through the game, you'll unlock tons of new upgrades and abilities that allow you to do things you couldn't do previously. At the start of the game, you can't do much, but throughout the course of the game, you'll unlock the wide beam, batter magnet, morph ball, invisibility cloak, screw attack, grapple beam. I could keep on going, but I think you get the idea. I love how jacked Samus will be by the end of a playthrough. My favorite of them all was probably the speed booster. At first, I thought it was kind of unremarkable, but the fact that you have to get a running start adds a lot of depth to finding certain secrets that I find to be really fun. The challenge comes from trying to figure out where to start the limited space you're given, and performing some precise jumps without killing your speed. The flash shift was a close second, since it letting you quickly dash to avoid attacks was super useful and fun. All of the upgrades are really creative and bring a lot of variety to the gameplay, and the sense of empowerment you get is awesome. You also have a counter attack where you can parry enemy attacks by pressing the button just at the right time, and succeeding will give you some rewards like extra ammo and health. It's pretty satisfying and has a nice risk-reward dynamic. Countering is damn near essential in bosses because of how many extra hits you can get in. And oh yeah, exploration is also a big part of this game. Most of the time it's pretty cryptic since the game never outright tells you where to go, like a lot of story-driven games today, but I don't think this is a bad thing since you always have a map that'll fill out places you've been to. The non-linearity makes exploring really fun since when you find something like an upgrade, it feels rewarding. You'll have to do a lot of backtracking because there will definitely be a lot of times where you see a thing that's blocking something, and this usually requires an upgrade to clear. The feeling when you get a new ability and realize, oh wait, I can use that thing on the thing I saw earlier, feels great. This was one of those games that I always look forward to playing to see what I would discover next. The game also has tons of secrets to find, like an upgrade to your missile ammo or total health, which does a great job of incentivizing exploration. Since this game was made for the player to stray from the main path to look for more secrets, on my first playthrough I did have a few occasions where I was lost and couldn't figure out where to go, but I didn't really mind since exploring was still really fun. Throughout the game, you'll encounter many of these big robots that'll chase you called EMMI, or if you're annoying, extraplanetary multiform mobile identifier. EMMIs will only dwell in specific areas of the map, and once they spot you, they'll start chasing you, which invokes a lot of tension. These guys are really dangerous since if it catches you, it'll instantly kill you. However, there's a very small window of time where you can counter the EMMI's attack to stun it temporarily so you can get the hell out of there. It's really hard to pull off, but I honestly think it was for the better, because successfully parrying an EMMI feels great, and it adds to the game's theme of dread and desperate survival. Some come with their own unique abilities like being really fast or stunning you temporarily if you enter its spotlight. The only way you can get rid of one of these big guys is if you locate an Omega Cannon. They'll let you slowly chip away at its health and then you can fire one big shot at it to finally kill it. And even the act of trying to kill it is actually kind of challenging. The threat of the EMMIs constantly pursuing Samus is where the word dread comes from in the game's title. I think the EMMIs were a great addition that provides the player a nice challenge, as you'll have to find ways to traverse EMMI zones without getting caught and killed. The EMMIs also add some stealth into the game since early on you'll unlock the Phantom Cloak, which lets you temporarily go invisible with worse mobility. Metroid Dread also has tons of boss fights, which are all really fun and push me to my limits. I'm not sure if I'm in the minority for thinking this, but I actually found Metroid Dread to be pretty challenging. Some bosses took me as long as 50 minutes to complete on my first playthrough. I actually greatly enjoyed the challenge in Metroid Dread, since it was kinda addicting and overcoming a boss that gave me a lot of shit felt super satisfying. It's never absurdly difficult, since the game is quite generous with refills and checkpoints, and all the enemies telegraph their attacks, so if you get hit, that's really on you. The drive to get better and triumph against a boss encouraged me to keep playing. I don't really understand why so many critics say this game is too difficult. While I can get pretty frustrated when playing a difficult game, I still want to keep on going since I know it was my fault for dying and I want to improve. The only time I think a game can be considered unfairly difficult is if it's something really stupid like bad controls not going well with the game. Metroid Dread controls like a dream, so I thought the difficulty was very fair. I actually found a review that described the controls as cumbersome, which made me laugh because this game controls really well. Like, did they play the wrong game or something? The game does run pretty well, but there are a few minor issues. Firstly, this game is beautiful for the Switch, and it runs at 60 FPS, which will always get me excited, but it did note a few rooms that would consistently kick the frame rate in the balls. My footage was only at 30 FPS since my capture card was a bitch, but it gets pretty noticeable when it happens. And this game can also load for a while too. Maybe this is just because my new PS5 is spoiling me, but the load times can feel like they last a long time. Metroid Dread is actually very replayable. The game takes around 8 hours on a normal playthrough, which isn't that long, but the game is still great. But there are lots of sequence breaks you can do in this game. Sequence breaking is about trying to get upgrades earlier than intended by taking advantage of the game's mechanic. And I know not everyone likes to speedrun and stuff, but I still thought trying to break the game was pretty fun. The game records your total time, so it even encourages it. You can even manage to insta-kill the Kraid boss by doing a sequence break, involving you getting the Morph Ball bombs before the boss. The only thing there is left to talk about in Metroid Dread is the soundtrack. And I'm not really sure if Metroid games are known for having great soundtracks or anything, because I thought the soundtrack was just okay. There were any times where I'd hear the music and say, man, this sucks, but I can't really remember any tracks from the game besides the main theme and the songs that play in EMMI zones. Most of these aren't super hard compositions, they're mostly just ambient music that gets the job done decently well. Now, that's all I have to say about Metroid Dread, and what else can I say really? This game is simply awesome. This may have been my first game in the series, but I ended up loving my time with Metroid Dread. Its exploration, upgrades, and challenges all add to a really fun game that I can easily say was one of the best games I played this year. Metroid has always been one of Nintendo's more underperforming franchises when it comes to sales, so seeing this game do so well is really nice. Nintendo was even generous enough to make a free demo of Metroid Dread on the eShop, so if you're uncertain on whether or not this game is for you, then you have no excuse to not give the demo a shot. So I guess I'm a Metroid fan now if I love Dread, and I'm excited to play the other games in the series to explore my newfound love for these games. I've already beaten Dread twice, and I'll probably do it again, and you should play it too. So is this 2D, indie-looking game worth a $60 price tag? No, of course not. I died once, so this game sucks!